Now then, people, it's Joe, it's all Leeds TV, and it is time for another episode of Monday Night Football. My apologies for the surroundings. You're in my kitchen. I've had a few issues with my Wi-Fi before we started, so I've been all around the house. So yeah, my apologies. Everything that was there has just been pushed over, so you can't see the mess. But anyways, right, normally what we do on this, guys, as you know, those that have seen it before, we normally review the previous game week, not only Leeds, but also the other teams. But we thought tonight, after the last two 4-1 defeats, a total of 8 goals conceded and a lot of, negativity that's around Leeds at the minute on social media and in the comments, that I thought we would just have a chat about Leeds. A bit of an inquest, which seems a bit mad to think because we're only 8 games in. I don't really think an inquest's needed, but yeah, we'll call it that all the same. But tonight I've got with me, obviously, the lovely Oscar, as per. How are you doing, Oscar? All right?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I like your surroundings as well. I don't think I've seen that front room either, to be fair. You've done a good job there. A bit of decorating, mate.
I was doing this on the last vid, didn't I? The Friday night. I was in it.
I don't know.
I switched the camera around, you see.
Is that what it is?
Side, I look from the other side. Variety, mate. It's all about the variety.
It is, mate. Variety is the spice of life, I think. Something like that. Anyway, Gaz, how you doing, mate? All right?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Hope you guys are well as well. I'm still just in my bedroom as usual, to be honest.
Yeah. It looks cool though, man. It looks cool. You're sort of blending in with the grey and the grey, It's just like a floating head.
Yeah, that was the plan, mate, to be honest. Camouflage, innit? Camouflage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've had Gaz on before, but obviously we wanted to get him back because the episode after Gaz was on, we started with the whole 1 to 5 5-a-side ultimate Leeds 5-a-side team, and I knew Gaz would want a bash at that, so we got him back so that he could have a go at that. And also, he's the man that I go to when I need a bit of positivity around Leeds United, so I thought he could inject some of that tonight as well, because he normally gets a message off me going, "Gary, talk to me, please. Make me feel better." And making his debut, Mr. Josh Hobbs, a wealth of footballing knowledge. I've seen you and Oscar have a few little to and fro's of late as well, which has been enjoyable. How are you, Josh? All right?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, no me and Oscar, we like to have a little back and forth, little
debates.
Little arguments back and forth, all in good fun.
You were slandering our Lord Patrick Bamford, but
mate, I love Pat. I love Pat. I'm not having. There's no technical weaknesses in his game. So I love him.
Don't worry about it, Josh. Honestly, Oscar from time to time makes quite outlandish claims. He's called Cooper Baresi before, so don't worry about that. We all get it.
I'm not quite having that one either, but I'm a big Cooper fan. So
yeah, well, we're going to get on Cooper as well.
I know we will.
A little bit later on. So yeah, we'll have a dance around the Leeds United game. What I've done, to be fair, I went through some of the comments on mine and Oscar's YouTube video after the weekend, just picking out a few key points, and just thought we could discuss them. But first of all, obviously after the landslide and the dust has settled for a little bit, I just wanted to get your initial thoughts on the game itself. I'll come to you first, Josh. What do you think went wrong on against Crystal Palace, mate, and Leicester? Let's touch on them both. What's been going on?
Yeah, I'll go Crystal Palace first because it's fresh in the mind. I think to be honest, I know people don't want to hear this, but I think we were desperately unlucky. Because the first goal is a header from a corner, and I know we've conceded a lot from corners over the last couple of seasons. So there's an instant desire to be like, we're crap at corners. Why do we always concede from them? But I don't think we've conceded a goal from a corner since the first game of the season, if I remember rightly, the Van Dijk header. Yeah, it's frustrating because he outjumps both our centre-backs, which is very frustrating. But end of the day, he's headed it into the postage stamp and Meslier can't do anything about it. then I'm still furious about the goal that we all feel should have been the equaliser.
Mhm.
I mean, as soon as I saw the replay straight away, I had a horrible feeling, because as soon as I saw his hand, I was like, they're going to find a way to rule that out, because we know how the rules changed. And then we get the sucker punch of an absolutely class goal from Eze. And then even worse than that, just after we then get back into the game, 2-1. If we go in half time 2-1, I think there's still every chance that we come and at least take a point second half. But the horrific own goal, like, I think, 99 times out of 100, that does not happen. And then 3-1 against a team like Crystal Palace, of course you're going to get hit on the counter attack at some point. That's exactly what happened. We give the ball away on attacking transition on the halfway, and we get killed. And it looks horrible, that fourth goal. Like, it looks absolutely awful. But that's what happens when you're trying to break forwards, desperately trying to get a goal back when you're chasing against a team like Palace. And then, Leicester, we've given away two really sloppy goals first half, and that's you can't chase a 2-0 against Leicester. So I always thought we might nick a goal, but they were more likely to win it 3-1, and obviously it ended up being 4-1 because of the penalty. But I think they weren't 2 4-1 games. So that's how I feel. I feel like 4-1 in each is just ridiculously harsh on us.
Yeah, definitely. Josh makes a great point, guys. I mentioned it in my post match. For me, the third goal killed us. That's, for me, it seemed. I even felt a little bit, if I'm being totally honest, that you might not agree, but it felt like the hedge dropped a little bit as well, personally, for me. And yeah, I just think that's what killed us. And I think in the manner in which it went in as well, and obviously the Bamford situation. If he has shorter limbs, it's a goal. I think that's the frustrating thing, is that he's been done because he's got longer limbs than the average man.
Flipping pointing, man.
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm saying. If I point, it's nowhere near as what Bamford, because he's quite gangly, let's be honest. He's quite long, isn't he? So if he has arms the size of Pickford, then he's probably onside. Do you know what I mean? No, that's the frustrating thing. So I think in the fact that that's not given, and then the third goal in the manner in which it went in just before our time, I think it kills us, guys. What are your thoughts on the game against Palace?
Yeah, I think Josh has pretty much hit the nail on the head, and exactly how I kind of seen it, to be honest. I think, obviously, VAR plays a humongous part in it for me, because I think if that's one piece, it's a different game again. I just got the feeling on Saturday that one of them games where footballing gods were just against us. Dan's header, it's not a clean header. He gets his head on it. He does what you want from a centre half. But like Josh says, it's right up in the angle. Meslier hasn't got a chance to try and get that. Then the VAR incident, which, I'll be honest, annoyed me massively, because, to just touch on that point a bit, that I tried to eloquently tweet, but I'm not very eloquent, is we're living now where we've got lines assistants, or lines people, or linesmen, whatever you want to call them, who don't flag until the phaser play is finished. Bamford finished that chance with his foot. So why can't VAR play the remainder of the incident and see that his shoulder gives him absolutely no sporting advantage whatsoever? The body part he actually scores with is well and truly onside. So why are we living in a world where the lines people are able to let the full phaser play occur before they make a decision, but yet VAR is not able to do that? And that's the bit of a frustrating bit for me. Like I say, I think at one piece, that's a different game. Obviously, Eze's free kick, you can't do anything about that. You can't legislate for that. I think if you want to be really, really picky, the run up to the free kick, is a picky bit. But and then again, the Costa one just summed up what I said. That just felt like the footballing gods were against us. And yeah, there'll be a finger pointed at Meslier, and rightly so. He shouldn't be getting beat at his near post. But it's just one of them freak goals again. You just think that'll be on like Question of the Sport in like 50 years' time, saying what happens next. Because I don't think Zaha could probably kick it into net from the angle he's at. Never mind take a deflection off of Acosta's foot and go in. And I just think then once you're 3-1 down against Palace, who are one of them sides really under Roy, you make it hard for yourself. And then we, like Josh says, we get beat on the counter. And I just feel that the two games, both 4-1, to the casual Leeds hating fan base out there, they'll look at that and think Leeds are on a slip slide and 2-4-1 defeats. They're getting what they deserve now. They're in the Premiership. I just don't think either game were a 4-1 game, to be honest. I think we were well and truly in enough of both games to give a better account of ourselves. And it's just one of them against Leicester. If you don't take your chances, and you sloppy for 30 minutes and give them basically a head start, then you run the risk of being caught on the counter with people like Jamie Vardy and Harvey Barnes playing, and then they bring on Czech's Honda as a substitute, also just electrifyingly pacey. You run the risk of that happening, and I just think injuries and a little bit of naivety at times as well has probably killed us up at 2 games. But I don't think either game was 4-1, and I certainly don't think either game is worth having a big panic and ripping up the playbook and saying that we should now start playing with Big Sam instead of Bielsa and we should pay 5-3-2 or whatever bollocks I've seen flirted about on social media. To be honest, it's just now is the time to just relax, continue to believe in the process, and not 2-4-1 defeats for me. Granted, I think we should have lost both games, but not 4-1.
No, I agree with you, mate. I agree with you, and that's why I got you both on, because I know you'd be sound and you'd start to, find the positives, and that's what we need. In all the excitement of getting you on as well, I almost forgot. This video is sponsored by Football Prizes. I must remind everyone of that fact, okay? And this week they have a signed and framed Calvin Phillips Leeds United shirt available, £4.95 a ticket. There's a total of 99 tickets. Let me just check as well. I'm just going to quickly check for you, see how many of them are available. They've also just stuck up as well a 48-hour competition for the 92-93 Leeds United home shirt as well. So if that tickles your fancy, get on over. And as you know as well, they don't just do Leeds United related stuff. There's also a signed Jeff Hurst England shirt on there as well. I entered one myself first time. I won a Bielsa signed medal, which is pretty special. So for just £4.95 a ticket, you might as well have a go and get yourself a framed Calvin Phillips shirt if you win, of course. I can't promise that you will win. But you can certainly have a try.
You're sorting us out a free one, right, for our appearance.
For your appearance, yeah. I'll buy you a ticket, Josh. If you're hard up, mate, I'll buy you a ticket, Paul.
Cheers, pal.
No worries. Oscar, thoughts on the game then, mate, just to round us off on the actual 4-1 game before I ask some more, hard-hitting questions.
I mean, if only we had that man, that shirt, that man in that shirt on the pitch that day, Calvin Phillips. I think both games, don't think either game finishes 4-1 with Phillips there. I think certainly the Palace game, you obviously look at Zaha on the 4th goal, you probably imagine Phillips probably takes him out or, at least does something, stop him getting that far up the pitch. But neither game's a 4-1 game. I've got to agree with, pretty much everything Gaz and Josh have said there. It was never a 4-1 game. It was never a 4-1 game. Neither was Leicester, really. I was disappointed with the second half. I did think the second half was below our standards. I did think we ran out of ideas going forward, which was disappointing. But look, you look at Palace and you say, defensively, in terms of being able to soak up pressure, they're one of the best teams in the league doing it, really. Certainly outside the top 6. You don't see many teams as good out of possession as Palace are, in terms of making sure they being able to drop deep and defend in like a deep block and that. And we just couldn't get through it. And that's the problem. Is the only criticism will be is that we've gone 2 down early on in both games. And as Josh says, you can't really come back from that at this level. I think in the Championship, because we were the big fish in the small pond, you always felt like when we're behind in the game, we're always going to come back into it. You think Villa Park away. And we even said in the watch along, mate, that, 2-1, I felt really confident at 2-1 that we were at least going to get something from the game. But the 3-1 changes the whole complexion. I think we all at that point accepted it's not our day. When things like that happen, the VAR decision, it's just one of those days. Always seems to be Roy Hodgson who's the beneficiary as well, because I've seen so much nonsense, absolute nonsense, about it being a Roy Hodgson tactical masterclass. Because let's be honest, it wasn't really, was it? I think Eze was absolutely sublime on the day. I've got to hold my hands up there. Eze was unbelievable.
But you say that, though, Oscar, just to jump in, he chose Eze over Schlupp. He normally would have played Schlupp. He's maybe made that decision.
That's what I'd ask.
I think as my colleague John from All Stats, aren't we, was saying earlier, I think it was they did set up tactically differently in the first half to how they normally would do. Their second half was more of a classic Palace performance, but they were protecting the lead. But I think they came to attack us, because I'd say before they scored the first goal, I felt they were on top in the game, and I think them going ahead was right. Like that was fair. Obviously, then we felt it should have been 1-1, and that makes the game completely different. And we perhaps we were just coming into the game and getting on top, and then suddenly it's 2-0. But I feel that he chose Ayew over Batshuayi, which again I think that's a tactical decision, because Batshuayi is probably more likely to go in behind on the counter, and Ayew sort of dropped off into midfield a little bit more. Eze and Zaha's ball carrying. I felt that there was something that he did there tactically that disrupted us. They didn't just sit back and let us have the ball, which is what a lot of us thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
This is where,
I think that's a good point.
Me and Oscar debate on Twitter all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It started, but no, obviously picking personnel's tactical as well, right? Because I spoke to a Palace fan prior to the game, and he was like, "Look," because I made the point of saying, "Oh, Eze gave Calvin one of his toughest games. What have you made of him?" And he turned around and went, "I wish we'd seen him, because they don't see a lot of him." And then he starts this game, you know what I mean? So that's a tactical decision, isn't it? You know what I mean?
What with Eze starting, I think it's quite clear from that Palace saw that Leicester game and think, as much as I am positive about this Leeds team at the moment, it was clearly from that the fact Hodgson felt he could play Eze in that game, go a bit more attacking in the first half, was that he felt we could be got at, in terms of, I think he accepted we'd have 65, 70%, whatever it was of the ball. I think there is something there that teams are thinking now, okay, we can get out of that Leeds team now without Calvin in there. It probably makes it even easier. But, that's something, why I think it's a good time for the international break, really. We can look at the last two games and just settle down a bit and just little slight tweaks. And I think that's all that's needed, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, after the international break, obviously there's going to be some key personnel back in. But just on that point as well, and on my post-match, obviously it's pretty raw. It's straight after the game, and I was pretty negative towards the depth, right? And I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Obviously, I don't know if it feels that sometimes that I have an agenda against Alioski, but I'm not saying he had a bad game, but for me, I just don't think he quite cuts it. Someone's just put it in the comments, the points I'm going to make as well, to be fair. Maybe they watch my video. I doubt it. Not many do, but there you go. Roberts, I don't know what he does. I heard, actually, Josh, one of the lads on All Stats, aren't we, say, look, if he wants a career at this Leeds United side or wants a career, he needs to be a number 9, not a 10, not in midfield. And I made the point of saying, like, when we were doing the watch-along, when he came on the pitch, I turned round to the people watch. I don't know what he's going to do. When he comes on the pitch, I don't know what he gives us. I don't think he was great against Hull when he was given his opportunity. And every time I've seen him since, I just don't know what he does, genuinely. You guys will have more knowledge than me and maybe can elaborate for me. And I shouldn't have listened to All Stats, aren't we, before I came on, actually, because I like to get my fill, and they've sort of changed my opinion a little bit on my Cooper, because maybe it's the go-to to blame Cooper. But I was a bit like, there was a few times where Zaha was backing into him, and if he wouldn't have brought him down, he'd have absolutely left him for dead. There was one on the edge of the box where he goes to turn him, but he brings him down and concedes a free kick. And I think if you don't bring him down, he's absolutely gone, with a quick drop of the shoulder. I don't know. I think both of them actually, Koch and Cooper, for me, can be a little bit too overzealous trying to get in front of the man. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on them three individuals. I'll let Josh take Cooper. If you want. Do you think I'm being harsh? Because for me, I'm thinking, right, where's Llorente coming in? Is he coming in straight at centre back alongside Koch?
Mate, I have been getting replies for days since I said I don't understand why people think that Llorente's coming in for Cooper. So if you want to have a look on my on my Twitter and just see how many replies I've got to that, but I think Cooper will play left centre back for the vast majority of this season. I think he'll be picked to play left centre back whenever he's fit. He's the captain of the team, and he's natural left footer, which I think makes it strongly in his favour that he will be in that position. Llorente played left centre back for Sociedad last season, and a lot of their fans were literally like celebrating that they got £20 million for him, and that should be quite concerning. I think he can be a really good player, but he's not natural playing left centre back. He defends on his weak side a lot of the time. That way, he's not going to pass the ball as well as he does when he's on the right, because he's on the wrong angles for passing out wide quite a lot of the time. We obviously haven't seen him in a Leeds shirt yet, so I'm not. Please don't hear me as writing him off, because I'm not. But I think him and Koch will compete for right side centre back, and I think it's Cooper and Struijk for left side centre back. That's my feeling. Obviously, Ayling played left side centre back against Villa and was absolutely excellent. So it's not that a right-sided player can't play on the left, because Ayling did it brilliantly. But I think Cooper hasn't really been bad. For me, the big mistake that I can think of him making this season was he was pretty sloppy for the Sterling's goal against City. He gave him the ball back like twice. It was like, oh, I've got it off you. Here, have it again. Oh, here, have it again. And then he scored. But apart from that, getting out jumped from a corner, like, it's going to happen sometimes. Like, having a player like Zaha run past you, it's going to happen sometimes. Zaha destroyed Man United a few weeks back. Like, Zaha is a quality player in this league. And if
Man United
anything,
aren't a barometer though, Josh.
No,
not a barometer.
but they've got players worth, £100 million. You know what I mean? Whereas, if I'm honest, the big clangers at the back have come from Robin Koch more than they've come from Cooper. And I'm not writing off Koch, because I think he's got great potential. But I think actually it will be between him and Llorente, and then I think Cooper will be pretty settled at left centre back.
Do you agree then with what your pals are saying on, I guess, is it easy? Is it just the go-to man because of the old League One Liam tags and stuff for us to straight away go, oh, Liam? Because that was my initial thought, and loads of people are saying it in the comments as well, just ousting him a little bit. Do you think that's what it's down to, just because of the old tags?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I think there are some players
Have you lost me?
As soon as I'm still here. Are you still there?
Still there, Joe?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah. I think there are some players that as soon as things go badly for the team at all, there are fans that are just ready to chuck those players under the bus. And Cooper, I think we all know he struggled in the past. particularly when we were in a team that had to defend a lot. He's not that kind of defender. I think he's much more a defender that benefits being in a front-footed team. And so at times when we do get attacked a lot, he can be exposed, but that doesn't mean that he should be chucked out. I think he's still our best option in that position, and I think there are other players that get chucked under the bus very quickly as well. I can think of Ayling getting loads of abuse in Bielsa's first season, like about halfway through the season. Everyone suddenly was like, "Oh, Ayling's not good enough on the ball, this, that, and the other." And then, who would say that now?
No, yeah.
Like, who would be chucking out Ayling right now?
No, you make a great point, Josh. Do you know what? I'm going to save Roberts for Oscar because Oscar absolutely loves him, and I just don't get it. So, guys, talk to me about Alioski. Is it again? Am I just looking at an easy option just because he probably didn't have a bad game? I just straight away go, yeah, Alioski's just not Premier League quality. I'm not having it. When he gets in that final third, especially, his decision making's piss poor for me. But that's just me. Go on, guys. I'll let you take Johnny.
Joe, obviously you're a avid listener of Talking Shutt, and I feel like you've loaded me up here to throw me under the bus because I do have some criticisms of Alioski. Listen, with Alioski, I can't fault his work ethic for the team. I can't fault, his commitment to what we play as a Bielsa side. The frustration comes to me with Alioski is just that lack of quality every now and again, and he just seems to have a bit of an heads gone moment every now and again with a loose pass or a dallying on the ball too long or a wrong option. But you know what? You've got to remember that it's a step up to the Premier League. And for some players, it's going to be a bigger step up than it is for others. So I don't want to be too critical of him, but that has been my criticism of him for quite some time. And I know that fans love him because he's a bit quirky and, he makes seal noises when he's in bath and stuff like that. That's amazing. But, he is quite frustrating. I mean, one that comes to mind, that crazy Birmingham game that finished 5-4 last year. Leeds 3-2 up. Alioski's travelling with the ball down the field, gets 3/4 of the way up the field, makes a mistake, falls over, Birmingham counter and beat us. And he's left off waving his arms about. That's the little bit of a frustration that annoys me sometimes, that also get you punished in the Premier League. Birmingham punishes that day, but not many teams let you off the hook in the Premier League. And again, just before anybody thinks that I'm bashing him, I'm not. I do understand, his work ethic. I do understand why Bielsa has him in the side. He fits Bielsa's mould really, doesn't he? That he'll run himself to death, but just occasionally that just lack of quality in key areas or just making a mistake sometimes is what I think draws people towards the frustrations towards him. And again, just touching on what Josh was saying, I think that Alioski suits at left back when we're on the front foot, when we're attacking teams, because there's not as much reliance on him defending and making good decisions in key areas, because other players are doing it kind of for him. But obviously Bielsa loves him; he ain't going anywhere. Whenever we've got these injuries that we've got him, Dallas will be Mr. Utility, and now that Barry Douglas is at Blackburn, and you're looking probably next in line is Alioski at left back. So. If he could cut his mistakes and make better decisions, then I won't really have many gripes with him. But he just doesn't sometimes, and doesn't seem to learn either.
Yeah, no, I understand. Definitely, from when we're playing attacking, as long as he's playing at left back, I said that first season under Bielsa, the amount of times that kid ran offside, I was screaming my head off. I was like, play him at left back where he can see the game and everything's in front of him, because if he plays left wing, honestly, he was offside more than he was on it for a period of time, was Alioski. It was so frustrating. Oscar, right, for me, Tyler Roberts, I don't know what he does, what he gives us. If he was to be loaned, and I mean this with the best intention, if he was to be loaned out tomorrow, I don't think we would miss anything. That's just my own personal standpoint. I know you love the lad. Change my mind. Tell me what he does.
I mean, it's this thing about me having an obsession with Tyler Roberts. I mean,
mate, you do.
For me, I just think it's a short memories thing with Tyler Roberts. I think there's a big thing for me is his position. Josh mentioned it before. The big thing for me is his position. I don't think you can criticise him for having a bad game in the number 10 position when he's not on number 10. It's like saying, for me, it makes about as much sense as playing Pablo Hernandez as a CDM because he just doesn't suit the position for me. I know he had a couple of good games the first Bielsa season, a few last season, but for me, it just doesn't suit him anymore in this team. I just think he has to play number 9. Number 9 or possibly out wide, maybe left wing. I know he's had a couple of decent little games there, but when he plays number 9, his record speaks for itself. He had that period, the first Bielsa season, when Roof and Bamford were out. I think he got something like 5 and 5. I remember that Preston game, scored 2 really good goals. Last season, you have that whole game, he came on, changed the game, and even that Fulham game, that 3-0 game, the crucial one, almost like the promotion decider. Bamford came off at half time. Roberts went up top, and he was dragging, I think, Tim Ream, Michael Hector all over the place, kind of thing. I know they're absolutely awful, really, in the context of the Premier League, but he was superb for me. I thought he was a big part of what made us hammer him in the end. And look, he's not a first choice for me, and I'll be the first to criticise Tyler Oates when he has a poor game because I think he has to raise those standards now. I'm not going to say he's been anywhere near producing the standards of performance that he's capable of because he hasn't. It's been unacceptable a little bit. That whole game, especially, against a League One opposition, I just thought he was trying fancy flicks and tricks like 2 minutes into the game. I just thought, and that's why I don't think he suits playing deeper in this team. I just think he's got to play as number 9. I think he's an inventive player in that sense. He's different to Bamford in terms of how he plays the role. And for me, I think it makes more sense to play Rodrigo there and to have Roberts competing with Bamford really for the centre forward spot. And that's the thing. I just feel that's a big part of it at the minute for Roberts. He's not playing in his best position at all.
So do you? I guess, Oscar. So my look, he's still a young lad, right? He's still so young, right? And there is potential there. But what happens with him then? Do we loan him out because he's not going to be playing? He's not going to play in the number 9, is he? Even if Bamford gets fit, I dare say Rodrigo plays there. That's what I think he would go. I may be wrong. So how long is he going to wait for that opportunity? Do you know what I mean? Guys, do you want to jump in just on the Roberts thing?
I actually am. I'm 100% with Oscar on this. I think
stop the clocks.
No, I'm 100% with you, mate. Seriously, like I really rate him as a striker. Like I agree, Bamford. Like no one's shaking Bamford right now. But I think he plays the role differently to him, but also much more similarly to Bamford than Rodrigo would. If Rodrigo played there, it would really change the way we play, which I don't think would necessarily be a good thing. Whereas Rodrigo playing in the sort of attacking midfield slot means he shows up in pockets of space. He constantly demands the ball. Whereas I think when Roberts plays there, he can just go completely missing. Like the difference, the Sheffield United game is the perfect example of it because the first half, Roberts, I went through it and I think Roberts touched the ball like 10, 11 times, something like that. And then Rodrigo touched the ball like 30 odd times. They played for the exact same amount of time. They played a half each. But Rodrigo he demanded the ball all the time. And he played a key role in the winning goal in the way that he showed for the ball, drew the Sheffield United players towards him, spread it out wide to Harrison. Harrison puts the incredible ball in for Bamford to score. And I just don't think we're going to see that from Roberts. Like you say, there were those moments in the first season. We all remember the West Brom game. That's what we want to see from Roberts again. But I don't think we're going to see that very often. And I think back to goal as a striker, he can be really, really good in that sense. He can hold the ball up. He's got strength. He can run in behind, and he showed when he gets a chance up front that he can finish. So I think that's for me. I would have him on the bench as the first sub for centre forward, and sat there waiting for if Bamford ever gets injured, he gets a chance to start. But otherwise, I'd be going for Rodrigo, I'd be going for Hernandez in that other slot. And even I'd even bring on, if Click's playing and Shackleton's on the bench, I'd bring on Shackleton in that role over Roberts.
Yeah. I mean, Gaz, do you ever see? Would you, in a case like Josh has mentioned, if Rodrigo is on the bench and Roberts is on the bench, do you think he goes Roberts in that? Is he the understudy to Bamford, do you think, in Bielsa's eyes?
I think Roberts is quite a difficult one. I hear both what Oscar and Josh are saying, and I agree with them to an extent. I think if you remember, if you bother to read my Twitter, I suggested loaning him out at the beginning of the season, not because I doubted his ability to step up to the Premier League, but I did doubt his ability to be able to get through a season without getting injured again. And I think that's been one of the biggest criticisms, not criticism because it's not his fault. You look at the injuries, he's been very, very unlucky. I mean, he got a really, really nasty infection, which, could happen to anybody. It's not his fault kind of thing. And I really hate this tag that we got on social media where they call players injury prone or, biscuit legs or whatever without actually looking into it. I mean, any of us could get an infection and be out for a period of time, but that's the bit for me. And I agree with the lads. I don't see him as a 10, particularly in the Premier League. And as a mitigating factor, in the games he has come on in as a 10, we're chasing the game, which it's a big ask to ask him to come on and change a game, playing out of position, where I just don't think the 10 really suits him, to be honest. Like Josh said, the first half of the Sheffield United game, he was absent by, without even really realising he was on the pitch. Didn't really do much. Then to make that even sort of more emphasised is we bring Rodrigo and he has such a massive influence in that same position. So going back to what the lad said, I would probably agree with him being back up to Bamford. My concerns are just this injury problem. Just he can't seem to get through a season. I'm not sure. I'm really torn on him. I do think the lad's got talent, and certainly I think the best showings we've had from him is as a 9. Yeah. But then I wonder if Bamford misses out, I still have a feeling that he plays Rodrigo through there and looks at an alternative option in the 10. And then in that case, you then start looking and think, well, when does Tyler Roberts get the opportunity to prove himself in either position? And that's where I might start leaning towards potentially getting him out on loan and letting him get, a season, 3/4 of a season, half a season, playing as a number 9 week in, week out, and really start establishing himself and turning around and saying, I'm a number 9. But then again, Bielsa carries a small squad. It's a big risk to take. We only have to lose a couple of players as we've seen, and it upsets the apple cart entirely. So I realise that I've just probably skirted around the issue rather than actually answering it there, but it really is one of them where I'm not too sure with him. I do rate him. I do think there's a hell of a talent there, and he is only 21, like Oscar says. But I struggle at the moment to see where he fits in, because I just don't see this 10 role working for him as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think it's born out of frustration for me personally as well, because obviously when we are chasing a game and a change is made and I see Roberts come on the pitch in a midfield role, and I just think, what's the fucking point? That's my initial thought, genuinely. And I know that's not nice.
I wouldn't disagree, Mate, I said the same thing on Saturday. I mean, who's the first thing I said when I saw Roberts warming up was, who's he coming on for? Because that was all I was interested in. If he's coming on for... I can't remember who even came on. Was it Struick who came on for? We put Click a bit deeper, didn't we?
Possibly,
it was kind of like there's 10 minutes to go, wasn't there? But for me, I look at Tyler and I think I just want him doing what Eddie did last season. 10, 15 minutes to go in the game, pull him on for Bamford. If we're chasing it, if Bamford's a bit tired, because I think Josh will probably have mentioned this before or know about this, but there's a massive theory about having the second striker, putting him onto the pitch. I think it's between the 70th and 90th minute, where it's like, I think it's an 80% chance the team's going to score in that period, because the defence are tiring. You put on a new striker onto the pitch with 20 minutes to go, fresh legs against tiring defences. I think that's the way to go with it, really. Because I looked at Paddy Paddy had a faultless performance on Saturday, in terms of he scored 2 goals. If you think about it, he took his two proper chances. But with 20 minutes to go, maybe change something up. I think we saw it in the first season for Bielsa. There's nothing wrong with having a second striker and saying, just put him on the pitch and switch it round. One plays 70 minutes, 20 minutes to back with Roberts, 70-20 split. You see a lot of top teams do it. You do see a lot of top teams do it. You'll laugh at this, but Aguero and Jesus, at City, how long have City done that for the last 3 years? Had Aguero on the pitch, he's their best striker for a mile. took him off with 20 minutes to go, put Jesus on, fresh legs against a tiring defence, and finished the game off or chased it successfully. But look, it's hard. It is hard. It's a hard one. You've got to remember, we're only 8 games into the season. Still another 10 or so games before January, and it might go either way. We might be by January. Me and Josh are saying, "Oh, that Roberts is awful. He wouldn't even get in a League One team." Or we might be saying, "You know what? We found the role for Roberts. You just don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 games or so."
No, true. Christopher's obviously not happy. You lot, for fuck's sake, Roberts comes on and scores, and you'll be jumping about. Yeah, that's the whole point of football. Of course, we will. But
we've just been saying how good he is. We've just been saying we want him to be a striker.
Yeah, if we don't have any debate, there'll be. Go on, mate. If we don't have any debate, though, there'll be no point, will there?
I don't suddenly get where there's this idea that you've got to sit on one side or the other, and the one is get behind the team, or the other is leave it to Bielsa. Before Bielsa, long before any of these players were here, in the fucking 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, people went down the pub and discussed football. That's all we're doing. None of us are writing letters to Bielsa saying play Roberts up front or send him out on loan because he's crap. It's tiring, if I'm honest. It's tiring.
Yeah, man.
Just like we're allowed to have opinions. People are allowed to have opinions, right or wrong, whether you like it or not. Whether you like Roberts or whether you think we should be playing Ryan Edmondson. Get him back from Aberdeen and let's chuck him up on. You know what I mean? Let's have a debate about football. We can have a debate and disagree and agree on things. We shouldn't just because we say leave it to Bielsa. It annoys the living shit out of me. I just don't get it.
What I'll say is, though, Gaz, if Rafinha doesn't start versus Arsenal, Bielsa will be getting a strongly worded letter from yours truly, to be fair.
Mate,
genuinely, do these people
love
who said to us, leave it to Bielsa? Do genuinely these people think that we try and change his mind, that we don't believe that he knows what he's talking about? We're just having a discussion about football. That's what football's all about. Stop
Preach, brother.
being them people who are just fucking moaning about people having opinions. Have an opinion. Stick to your opinion. If you don't like it, fine. Go.
Yes, Gaz.
So like you always say, Gaz, they are like arseholes. Everyone has one, right? Some are dirtier than others. That's all. So, right, okay. So listen, I've done a few podcasts over the last few weeks, and especially in the early stages when we were shipping goals against the likes of Liverpool, and people were saying, yeah, you'll do really well. However, you just can't defend. You're going to ship loads of goals. And I stood there and said, that's not the case. We haven't forgot how to defend overnight. We can defend. And the frustrating thing is now sort of what people were saying and the media narrative that was getting put out there that we'll just concede too many goals. We've now conceded the most in the Premier League. We've conceded 8 in the last 2. So I start to then think to myself, are they actually right? Can we not defend? Like, have we forgotten how to defend? Do we have cause for concern? Or is it just down to personnel missing? Is it as easy as just saying, right, well, Calvin's missing, you know? It's actually, I was listening to all stats that week because, again, I made the point on my thing saying Calvin's missing, that's the problem. And then I think it was John and Darren were like, well, actually, Strauch had a good game and he's not, not that dissimilar. And then I was like, oh, fuck's sake, maybe I was wrong. But I guess just I'm asking you guys is there an issue with the defence? What can we do to fix it? I mean, shipping 17 goals, most in the Premier League, 8 in the last 2. Is it just as simple as key personnel missing, or is there really an issue there? Josh, I'll come to you.
Mate, I think it's even more simple than that. I think it's just horrific luck. Like, honestly, luck is such a huge part of football that I think people forget about it. That this is why, like, our podcast, our Twitter channel, like, we get a heck of a lot of people get upset about us when we talk about XG. But the XG does not suggest that we should have conceded the amount of goals that we've conceded. Like there's been penalties, which that's obviously high, like very high probability of those being scored. But if you consider that the chance that's actually been created there, like think of the penalty that Klick gave away, like Leicester are going absolutely nowhere at that point, and then he just gives away a silly foul on the edge of the box, and they get a high XG chance from the penalty to score. But on the whole, we've not been giving away like the amount of chances. We haven't been giving away the sort of quality of chances that translate to the amount of goals that we've conceded. We had the horrible own goal. We have a free kick that just goes in off the crossbar. We have a header from a corner. Like, those are all chances that are hardly ever scored. And just on that day, they all went in. And we just had the worst luck all in one game. And that's why analysts like use XG in the first place, because it allows you to look a bit deeper than just it allows you to look a little bit deeper than just that what the scoreline was. Because if we just analyze the scoreline, it's like, well, we've got an awful problem. But I don't think that's the case. Like, I don't think we're going to end the season as the team that concede the most goals. Like, we might be that for a little while, but I don't think we're going to be at the end of the season the team that's conceded the most goals. Fulham are going to concede more goals than us. Like, come on. Like,
yeah, true.
We are better than that. We've had a really bad week, and we also conceded 4 goals against Liverpool in a crazy game at the start of the season. It's still only 8 games in. As the season goes on, that will balance itself out. It won't be that bad.
Do you think there is also points to the fact that Rodrigo's missing as well? I think it's a key thing as well, just in terms of making it tick up top, even just like where Josh mentioned earlier, the difference between the amount of touches he has and the pockets of space that he'll be able to pick it up in and create dangerous chances from, there is a lot down to personnel. For me personally, I think we look a lot more wide open without Calvin on the pitch. That's just my observation, from when I look at it, regardless of if Strauch's comparable or not. For me, he's not, but yeah, for others he is. Football's a game of opinions. But Gaz, do you go along with Josh that we won't have conceded the most over the season? Will we sort it out? I think we will. Look, we haven't forgot how to defend. It was only last season we were up there with the highest clean sheets across the whole of Europe. I understand we've gone up a level now, but still, we defensively we've always been pretty decent. It's more up the top end. We can't seem to string 5 passes together at times for me. Even if we have 60-70% possession, we just don't seem to be able to string it together like we normally do.
I think it's important that we take it. It's easy to get to this point after 2 4-1 defeats to get a little bit like we've got a real defensive issue. But I think if we take it on the context of the season, the 4-3 against Liverpool is just a crazy game. Like, I'm just thinking about Salah hitting the angle with that ball that bounces down. It had a little bit of a feel to me like the Palace game, where everything they seem to strike gold. But if you go back and look at that game, I would also argue that that's not a 4-3 game, because at times we defended quite well in that game. And again, if you take that in context, we've got Pascal Struijk and Robin Koch, who pretty much landed that morning and got changed into a strip and went and played. So if you look at that, you can kind of account for them 4 goals. I think the other side of things to look at as well, we beat Villa 3-0 and was defensively excellent. They've just gone and beat Arsenal 3-0. It's in these 8 games, there's a lot of teams still kind of evolving, finding the feet, all that type of stuff. And, we're going to be one of them teams that's going to be up and down. We're going to dick people, and occasionally we're going to get dicked, because it's a big step up to the Premier League. And I think that, there's some concerns around the last 2 games because we've conceded 8 and only scored 2. But, I'm not worried, because, like we said right at the top of the show, I don't think either of them games are 4-1 games. And I don't particularly look at either of them games and think, apart from the 30 minutes against Leicester, where I think, my God, we were absolutely defensively shambles. I think you look at them and you can kind of account for the majority of the goals. There's obviously Dan's header that's it's a good header, but it gets a bit fortunate where it goes. A VAR penalty. beat on the counter against Leicester, who for me are arguably the best counter-attacking side in the Premier League. Yeah, I'm not worried at the minute. We're missing key players in Calvin, and certainly I think Rodrigo. He's got that bit of class that you kind of want in that 10. And, you know, the team's still settling for me. I ultimately think long-term, Rafinha replaces Costa long-term. And I ultimately think it'll be a Rodrigo, Bamford, 9 and 10 sort of in the long term. But, you know, in the world that we're living in now, where you walk past somebody, you've got a chance of catching COVID, unfortunately, it just happens to be Rodrigo. And then, you know, you look on Saturday at the midfield, and we suddenly don't have a great deal of options apart from, you know, Jack Jenkins on the bench. So, do you know what, mate? Like, I agree with Josh that it'll balance itself out over the course of the season. And at the minute, the Premier League's just a bit mad. It's like we've been promoted back to the Championship Premier League, where everybody beats everybody, and you know, it's just you can't predict a score anywhere. I mean, going back to Villa again, we beat them comprehensively 3-0, defended outstandingly because they did have some chances. You know, they went and beat Liverpool 7-2 or whatever it was, and then they went and beat Arsenal 3-0. So, you know, use that as a yardstick, and I don't think we're too far off if I'm really honest. I might be just Leeds roasting to glasses again, or overly optimistic, but it just. I'm not looking at it thinking, oh my God, these teams are getting in behind us all the time and they're killing us, and you know they're on top and they're dominating games, because I don't think they are. I don't think we're being overly dominated. You know, I speak to loads of Blades fans working in Sheffield, and you know, today I was talking to a Blades fan at work, and he was saying what happened to on Saturday, and I said it genuinely just felt like one of them games where whatever Palace hit, it went in, and then we get unlucky with a VAR. So to answer your question, really long form instead of quite short form. No, I'm not worried.
Good. Love that, mate. And in response to them Sheffield United fans just saying, what's happened to your season full stop, mate? You haven't won a game yet. Now, feck off. Do you know what I mean? But Oscar, you know, Gaz just mentioned there, Rafinha and being a long-term replacement for Costa. I haven't rated Costa for a few games now, and then again, as I mentioned, I listen to other opinions, and I'm like, okay, I don't see what they see, but they know more about football than me. That's fine, but I just don't see what he's been doing of late, and I agree with you in that the small times we've seen Rafinha. I mean, that pass when he came on against Villa was one of the best passes I've seen, man, from a Leeds United player for a very, very, very long time, and even on Saturday when he came on, I don't know who he does. I don't know if it's Ezzy or whatever, when he's on the touchline. I don't even know the name of the flick. Like when he's on the touchline and he's somehow, you know, they all have them names, Rabona, Rainbow Flick, all these sexy names. I don't even know what you name it, but it was just mint, man. And I agree with Kaz, and I know you do, Oscar. Do we want Rafinha starting, you know, against Arsenal in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, 100% for me. I think I look at Rafinha, I think there's stuff to Costa's game which I really like. You know, especially in the build-up, the way he drops deep and always that gives Ayling that passing angle, and I think he's really handy in that sense. And against teams that play quite a high line, again, he kills them. He absolutely kills them. I mean, that Fulham 4-3 game, he just absolutely killed Fulham that day. You know, when they tried to play the high line, Liverpool, he was really good in that game as well. But I think against teams that sit deep, I want Rafinha there for me. I think he's just got that bit more variety in the final third. You know, he can take a man on the outside and go on the inside, and he can drop deep and, you know, play into little pockets of space and play those love that pass against Villa. And I think he did another one later on in that game against Palace as well after he did Eze. And, you know, just look at Rafinha, I think he's so bright in terms of what he's doing for us. And for me, Costa is still a good player. I'm not going to say Costa's not a good player, but he is a little bit off the boil at the minute. But off the bench, again, a little bit like Roberts for me, against tiring legs. I think it's a really good opportunity to really boost his confidence, you know, for 20 minutes to go against Arsenal. You know, bring him on, you know, depending on what the state of the game is. But I look at that Arsenal game against Villa, you know, if we have people like Rodrigo running in behind, you know, getting in support of Bamford and just linking up play, you know, in that sort of number 10 role, and then Rafinha from the right-hand side, you know, we know how much pace he's got. We know how much pace Harrison's got. I think it's just a really nice balance. And you saw what Villa did to Arsenal. I look at that Arsenal game and think, we have those four on the pitch at the same time. We have options off the bench. I genuinely feel confident. And, you know, just looking at the games itself, I know it's slightly off topic, but, you know, defensively, we're not that bad. You know, we're not that bad. You know, obviously, we're not what we were last season, but, you know, the standard of football we're playing in is totally different. You know, I see a lot of people compare Ben White and Robin Koch, but it's a difficult comparison to make. You got to imagine Ben White was coming up against people like Kiefer Moore and I don't know, just people like that, and Naki Wells. Robin Koch is playing against Mo Salah. Gabriel Jesus. World-class players here. There's a complete difference. Our defence is not going to be solid all season. There's going to be moments for every single defender. Guarantee. Every single defender, CDMs, every single defensive player in this team, there'll be moments in the season where there'll be sort of questions asked. They'll lose form because that's the nature of the league. There's no easy game at all. There's no easy game at all. Chances are, in pretty much every game, our defenders are going to be up against someone who's either very good or pretty much, among the best in the league. And that's just the way it is. And I just don't see us as a poor team defensively. I think there is a bit of a problem for me coming up against teams that just sit back. Obviously we've seen for that Leicester and Palace game and hit us on the counter and find it easy to just get, two wingers, centre forward, just running in behind and causing us problems. But for me, that's where this 2 weeks comes in. We find out what the solution is. I think Calvin's a big part of the solution. I think Llorente potentially might be part of the solution as a right-sided centre-back and then go from that. But I'm not worried about that. For me, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, I made sure I said right-sided centre-back.
I noticed.
I'd 100% hear what Josh is saying about that. But I do think just having that depth is key. I think almost as well, you look at people, it gives just people that extra kick up the backside, if you like, when you've got that proper competition. I think Coops and Llorente, I think both players are better when they've got that Coops and Koch even. I think they're both going to be better for having that competition off the bench and saying, okay, if I play poorly here, I've got a Spanish international on the bench there. And I just think naturally the nerves and the extra nervous energy, I just think there's going to be a boost for both players for me. And I'm not nervous. We're going to beat Arsenal in 2 weeks. No problem at all.
Yeah. I go along with that standpoint, mate. I'm with you. I'm conscious of time, so we'll try blast through this. I've only got two more, and then I just want to ask you about Arsenal. The next game's coming up. Just quickly, boys. Meslier, a few people have made comments before the game. I did a podcast on a Friday with some Liverpool fans, and they made the point. And one I was quite shocked. Actually, said, Meslier don't look no good. I don't rate him at all. And I was genuinely shocked. And then I got a message back on the Saturday having conceded 4. But there isn't a lot he can do about them, I don't think. And I've seen calls on YouTube as well and people giving him a bit of stick. Do you think it's way out of line? I think he's been good, hasn't he? And nobody wants he's the person on the bench coming in replacement for him anytime soon, do they? So do you know what I mean? Do you think it's crazy talking about Meslier, being bad?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like let's look back to last season when we really saw a bad run from a goalkeeper, like where literally it felt like every single shot was going through the crisp packet hands, and every single corner was coming out flapping. Just at that point in time, I felt like every time we were under attack, we were likely to concede because our keeper was so bad. Whereas with this, it's like, I don't think you can criticise for that own goal because no one's reacting to that. He's positioning himself for the cross, which is what that was. It was a cross. If it came across as it would have done, he just comes and collects it. It's a horrible deflection, and that's what happens. We retweeted from All Stats, aren't we? We retweeted a professional goalkeeper and analyst who basically broke it down, and he said he didn't think that it was a mistake from Meslier. And
David Priest?
No, a guy called John Harrison who we've had on a podcast before, but he's a guy who I really, really trust his opinions on goalkeepers. He definitely knows a lot more than I know, and he doesn't think it's a mistake. So I'm happy to back him on that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's crazy to be saying that he needs to come in. I seen someone earlier on say 17 goals. I think we should bring in Kiko, which for me is just crazy talk. I think it'd be even worse, if I'm being honest. Right, just another question. I just want to get all your opinion on this. I was quite surprised to see Pablo Hernandez not in the match day squad, and then to find out a little bit later on as well that it actually was just him being dropped, basically. That's the facts of it, He's been dropped due to his petulance after getting substituted. We don't know what's gone on after that fact. Maybe there was words. I very much doubt it from Pablo, but it was quite noticeable because the petulance didn't just stop as he walked off. I think it was worse, the fact that he had to go all the way around the pitch. Maybe if he just comes off like normally, he goes straight down the tunnel, no one sees anymore, but it was like all the way around, and it cut back to him, and he was still going off on it. So obviously that ain't gone down well. And then he's come out and apologised as well on Instagram. So maybe that's him saying to Bielsa, look, I'm sorry, I guess. I don't know if he's been asked to do that. I don't know what you believe, Gaz. I see you shaking your head. Talk to me. Was it the right decision to drop him? Because I think he could have had an impact on the game. And in hindsight, it was a poor decision for me.
Let's start with the Instagram post. I think the interesting point with the Instagram post is the context in which the post was posted. And it was off the back of the Poppy post that the club put out. And I think he was hinting at the fact he took off his black armband and threw it on the floor. I believe that's what he's apologising for.
Yeah, I think so too.
Not for his reaction and being took off. Now, let's go back to the start. Pablo Hernandez is arguably one of the best players I've seen at Leeds, one of the most technically gifted players outside the Premier League, and at no point ever has his commitment or his ability as a Leeds player come into question. However, Marcelo Bielsa is the manager, as everybody keeps liking to remind me, and therefore, if Bielsa deems that it's a petulant display and he doesn't like that, he's well within his rights to drop Pablo. As much as we dislike it and as much as we disagree, but we've got to look at it as well from a management point of view, and we've got to look at it from inside the camp. Bielsa's big on respect. If he thinks that he's being disrespected and he lets it fly because it's Pablo Hernandez, what happens next time when a Jan Poveda, as an example, comes off and does exactly the same? And then he punishes him. So you've got to look at it from a different point of view. Would I have dropped Pablo for Saturday? No. I think he could have had an influence on the game. Do I understand why Bielsa dropped him? And do I agree with Bielsa dropping him? Do you know what? I might do, actually. Because, Bielsa's still got to maintain that I'm the manager and what I say goes. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that Pablo was going against that. But, he's big on discipline. There's got to be a level of discipline. And if he construes that Pablo's reaction is petulant and not in the ethos of the team, then I can absolutely understand why he dropped him. And now the thing is, it's what happens from here on in. Pablo is an incredibly seasoned professional. He'll probably be disappointed with his reaction after. I personally think it's great that you see that reaction because it shows he gives a shit. But there's a time and a place, and being seen all the way around Ellen Road, kicking off and kicking and, moaning and kicking water bottles about, it just don't look great, does it? Particularly on telly. So yeah, I understand why he's done it. I do think Pablo could have made an impact on Saturday. We just have to wait and see.
The lads should know as well, because Pontus Jansson got bombed out of the whole football club for showing his behaviour. Yes, Saiz as well.
The same. Yeah.
And Saiz really got me because there were still games left to play that he could have had an impact in due to January. So it just shows you where he said, "Nah, go on, Josh." Sorry. Yeah,
I just hope that it's sorted now. Like this was a 1 game thing because I would be absolutely devastated if that was like the end of basically a club legend. Like for me, my favourite player I think I've ever watched at Leeds, and I'm sure he's a big enough guy that he'll have gone to Bielsa and said I'm sorry about that, and he's not. I don't think he's got the arrogance of a Pontus. They'll sort it out and he'll be back.
Yeah, I agree with Josh.
Yeah, well, it's when you say that we'll do the 1 to 5 five-a-side teams. We've not had anyone yet that hasn't had Pablo Hernandez in their five-a-side team, by the way. The ones that have done it, he's been in every single side, so we'll have to wait and see if he's in both of yours. Just before we do that, I just want to get your thoughts. Obviously, up next for me, this is where the Premier League gets good, and this is what we're in it for. I'm really excited, regardless of the results we have. Obviously, we've got Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea, and then I think West Ham, Newcastle. Then we've got Man United. These are what we're in it for. I just want to get your thoughts just quickly. Points total from Arsenal, Everton, Chelsea. Oscar, talk to me.
3 or 4 points is straight away what comes into my head. We win one of those games for me. Complete confidence of that. I think Everton at the minute are average. I think they can be got at 100% for me. I think obviously if Richarlison's still out, massive boost. Chelsea can be got at. You know, I'm not going to say they've not done well last couple of weeks, but they've not been tested. You know, I still think that defence can be got at. You know, I think you look at Rodrigo's pace against Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva's absolutely top class, but pace against that defence, I think, could cause some problems. But Arsenal initially didn't have much confidence, but again, I think Arsenal can be got at. We'd win one of those games, 3 or 4 points for me.
Nice. I've, due to my disdain for Frank Lampard on various different podcasts, I've now started getting gifs of Frank Lampard in my mentions, going when we get beat and stuff. So I need to curtail it because I feel they might win more games than us over the course of a season. Gary, them 3 games, mate, points total, and who we're beating and who we're losing to.
I think we take 6 points from them 3 games. I think that we get key players back.
Like that.
I think we've got a point to prove. You know, the players will be seeing the same reports. They'll be seeing the same social media. You know, saying X player shouldn't play, this player shouldn't play. We've got a defensive problem, all that type of stuff. And what we've seen from this group before is they're incredibly resilient. And we've seen in the past that we bounce back after international breaks. That's Bielsa kind of uses it as a reset. I think we beat Arsenal. I think we beat Everton, and I think unfortunately we get beat by Chelsea. It pains me to say it.
To me.
But
Don't say
sorry,
that to me. I can't deal with
got
it.
some Lampard gifts coming in your mentions. Yeah,
Joe,
you know what?
Oh mate, I can't.
I could be accused here of having, you know, rose tinted glasses on and my heart on my sleeve. And do you know what? So what? Live by it, die by it. And I think it would beat Arsenal. I think it would beat Everton.
Love that. I'm having some of that. Josh, are you going to tell us the 0 points total?
Oh mate, I'll worry at that stage. If we've gone 5 games in a row losing, then I will get a little bit more nervous at that point. I'm probably going to agree with Oscar here. I think 3-4 is that's good.
That's twice in the same night.
I know, mate.
I know what's going on, man.
Look
what's
at us.
Have you two listened to this before we came on?
Yeah.
No, I do. I think all those teams have players that can really hurt us, but we also shouldn't have anything to fear with those teams. And I think the way they play could suit us. So I think we win 1, we draw 1, we lose 1. So I'll go with the 4.
I'll take, as long as we beat
Can I ask you
Chelsea.
a very quick question, Joe? Can I ask you a very quick question while we're live on air? Okay.
Go on. Don't put.
Beat Arsenal and Everton, get beat by Chelsea, or lose against Arsenal and Everton, beat Chelsea 3-0. Like, what are you saying?
I am taking Chelsea humbling 3-0 win all day, genuinely, over 6 points. I know that might sound wrong, but I would love it, honestly, because I hate the man.
Kevin Keegan here.
I just dislike him.
I would love it.
I know, yeah.
So
I shit myself then, Oscar. I thought you were going to have something
atrocious there, but
cool. That's all. It's been a great show. Thank you both so much for coming on. I'm going to hand you over to Oscar now, who's going to take us through the Leeds United 1-5, as we're calling it. We need a more catchy name, to be fair. But yeah, Oscar, take it away, my man.
So I'm going to go to Gaz first. You've gone for just going to put it on screen. You've gone for pretty much the most iconic, probably 1-5 I can think of. Hang on.
It's tiny, mate.
What are you doing, Oscar? I gave you the reins. You had one job. I gave you the reins.
We had a nervy one, but we've recovered it. We've recovered it well.
No, Pablo.
Talk us through it, mate.
So, as Josh mentioned before we came on, a little bit of the I've just picked 5 of my favourite players, I think. But Nigel Martin for me, I think, is the best Leeds goalkeeper I've seen. Period. For the fact that David Seaman played for Arsenal, a very fashionable club, I think that's the only thing that stopped him in England's done one as well, if I'm really honest. Lucas, arguably the most underrated centre back in Premier League history, I think, for me. Again, club legend, but what a player he was as well. Batty, my hero growing up, obviously gives us a bit of metal in there. Gives a bit of needle and winding opposition up, and then Gary Speed, naturally gifted. Pace, technique, the lot, and then obviously Mark Viduka, who aren't going to get about it that much. It's a 5-a-side pitch, so he can just hang around and just slam him in from top in from all over the place, to be honest. That's what I'm going for.
That's what I was saying to Josh on live
there.
Viduka's class. Viduka's one of those players who you just I think with Batty and Speed, the legs around him, I think that just works, doesn't it? Viduka just puts him into the back of the net. I think everyone's probably thinking he's he's just lazy, isn't he? But he sticks him into the back of the net. No one really cares. But yeah, mate, I think that's a superb team, Matt. Superb team. So we're going to go to Josh. Josh, you've gone for something slightly different. You've gone for what's called probably the most hipster team we've had so far. But talk us through it, mate.
It's not come up on the screen yet. Oh, there it is. There it is.
There we go.
I think the thing that's gonna stand out straight away is Bridges, but still, I'll go through. So same as Gaz, Martin. I mean, best keeper we've had in my lifetime. I grew up with Nigel Martin as the Leeds keeper, and yeah, he was just phenomenal. Ben White, that could have been Rio Ferdinand in that role for me. But I just, last season, I honestly felt watching him was one of the most enjoyable experiences that I've had as a Leeds fan. He was just an absolute delight to watch. Good on the ball, quality 1v1 defender. And I've really thought about this team as being a team. I've thought about this as how do they work as a team, because I'm a nerd. So him, Hernandez, as I said already, my favourite Leeds player ever, probably. He's my technical player on this team. Batty is going around smashing people, but he can also pass it. And then Bridges is probably the one that everyone's like, I mean, Bridges was good, but what the hell are you doing picking Bridges here? But he's got mobility, he's got touch, he could flip and finish as well. And I think it's he was one of my favourite strikers to watch in a Leeds shirt, and I think it's an absolute crying shame that he got injured when he did, because he could have been the player to take us up another notch.
Nice, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Them, absolutely class. Thank you, and I know Oscar will get them posted out on social media so people can have their chat as well. Just Gary, no Pablo Hernandez. No Pablo Hernandez, guys. The first and only person to not have Pablo Hernandez in his 5-a-side team, man. What's going on?
Trailblazer, aren't I? One of my own and that. So
setting the trend. Setting the trend.
Do you know something? Just so many talented players to pick from. It could have been Hernandez in for Speed.
Yeah.
It could have been Bowyer in for Batty. It could have been Decor in for Batty. There's just so many people to pick from.
Bowyer would have been a great shout.
I could have probably made you 6 or 7 5-a-side teams, to be honest. But you can't pick them all. Can't pick them all.
You can't, mate. You're right. Right, okay, guys. So that's the end of that. I'm just going to let everybody know that this video was brought to you by Football Prizes. I just had a quick look. The Calvin Phillips signed framed Leeds United shirt is now done. All tickets are sold. So you can no longer enter that. However, they've got a 92, 93 shirt available. They've also got, let's have a look. They've got Jeff Hurst signed England shirt, and Mbappe boot signed, and Alfredo Morales signed shirt as well. So if any of them tickle your fancy, make sure you check them out. The link is in the description. football prizes. And that's it, guys. Josh, thank you so much for coming on. You've been brilliant. And
Cheers,
Oscar,
guys.
I will see you, in a bit. Just before we go, actually, guys, where can we find you, my man?
Obviously Talking Shutt back on Thursday this week instead of Wednesday. Work's getting in the way again for me. So 6:30 on Thursday, the usual sports YouTube and Facebook. It's just the four of us this week, no guests this week. Much the same as this, picking apart Leeds so far, and looking forward to after the international break. So check us out on Insta, Facebook, all them other places as well. And we've obviously got a YouTube channel that we use.
Some pretty high-profile guests on of late as well, man. I don't know where you're pulling them out from, man. Fair play. And Josh, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm Josh A. Hobbs on Twitter, and All Stats, aren't we, on Twitter?
Yeah, man. Check them out. Right. So I guess we'll leave it there then. Thank you in a bit. Leeds.